everyone, and welcome to the thru Recovery Life podcast. Today we have Miss Alex sharing her experience, strength, and hope with us, and here to tell us what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And Miss Alex is coming to us from Al-Anon. This is our first Al-Anon speaker on our podcast, and I'm looking forward to hearing her story. So without further ado, here is Miss Alex. Go ahead, Alex.
Hi, thank you for having me join your podcast. This is exciting. This is my first podcast, actually. Nice to meet you, John. Thanks for inviting me to speak today. Yeah, I've been in Al-Anon now for 13 months. And when I say I've been in Al-Anon, that means I've been reading conference-approved literature or joining meetings every day since last December. And yesterday I ended up joining your meeting through the app, your AA meeting, which was an open meeting, because I realized that it was important for me to also listen from alcoholics, and listen to their experience, strength, and hope, so that it would help me continue to learn what I've been learning. And did you want to ask me any questions, or do you want me to just sort of talk about my experience?
No, you can just talk, and I'll have some questions at the end.
Okay. So I have a brother and a mother in my life who are the alcoholics. And also, my stepfather probably is an alcoholic. And I have a lot of friends who are alcoholics, some in program and sober for many years, some constantly working to reach sobriety. And I have one of my closest friends who has been struggling as well throughout her life. So unfortunately, I'm very well versed in the life of alcoholism. And what I learned, which was the most eye-opening thing after joining Al-Anon, was that this is a family disease. And when somebody first mentioned that to me, I was super confused, which I later found out is a real common response. And the reason I was confused is because I immediately thought, well, I'm not the one with the problem, so why do I have to seek recovery? And it was so interesting because I had been through so much trauma with my brother. And my brother was the main reason we kind of were introduced to the program. And later it was unveiled to us how my mother also has a problem. And they're two different alcoholics. And so it was just really interesting for me to suddenly realize how involved I was, and that I couldn't expect the responsibility of sobriety to rest solely on my brother's shoulders. And it took a while for me to really understand, and I was filled with such anger and rage and resentment, and filled with questions like, why is this happening? Why can't you get sober? What is the problem? And since I've been in the program, I don't know if you all really know about Al-Anon, because like I said, I'd never heard of it. I'd heard of AA. I'd actually gone to an open AA meeting about 20 years ago with my friend in LA. But I didn't know about Al-Anon. And most people that I speak to don't know about Al-Anon. And I think everyone on this planet should be in Al-Anon, because this recovery teaches you how to navigate through life. And now I really understand what it means to say, in all your affairs, because all the tools that I've been learning, I've been using throughout my whole life. it even helps to quiet my anxiety and my anger when I'm walking down the street. I live in New York and there's tons of people. So if somebody's walking too slow. When I was in the depths of my sickness, I, you know, I was so angry even walking down the road. I wanted people to get the hell out of my way. And so it was really interesting to learn that this program gives you the tools that you need to help get through the day. And so it was interesting for me to unveil how involved I was and how responsible I was, and that everything I had done prior to Al-Anon, everything, even though they were filled and fueled by good intentions, and I was coming from a good place because I was so scared and worried. Um, I was doing everything wrong. And, I had to take my brother to the emergency room because he had um, internal bleeding, and it was life or death. But even though that was about 3 years ago, my brother still hasn't found sobriety. He's not in a program. And that has been really difficult because I've been working so hard in my own program. And of course, I still struggle, and I know it's going to continue because it's really hard to unlearn things. I'm 44 years old, so I am the way I am for 44 years. So I've been trying to unlearn a lot of things in 13 months. And I think everyone can agree that we all want to find the answers as fast as possible. Like, let me do what I can to fix this. I come from the serious mentality of the fixer. I was always the one in the family that everybody comes to when there's a problem. And I would try to fix things and solve things and do things for my brother and try to find solutions for my mom. And I realized that that was a real problem because I'm just enabling something. And I really needed to allow my brother to find things on his own. And the scariest part about this disease, which I now know is a disease, it's not about willpower. It's a disease, and that this disease is cunning and manipulative, and it takes being in recovery for the rest of your life to keep this disease at bay, to keep it out of your life. But so I guess when I joined your meeting yesterday, I really just wanted to share what I've learned, because I feel like when I spoke to my friend who, as I mentioned, has been struggling with sobriety, and I mentioned that I was in this program, and this was last year, I could tell how it made her feel almost a sense of relief, because she started to realize, her situation in her family, no one in her family had joined Al-Anon. And so she felt very alone, and that everybody was expecting her to make all these changes. And I understand now that that's similar to how my brother must have been feeling. And I don't flaunt it in his face. I don't even talk about it because I'm not here to prove that I'm doing something and he's not, And I just learned that the only thing I can control, and in Al-Anon, we have adapted and adopted the 12 steps into our own program. The only difference is the 12th step has been adjusted. But we have the 12 steps. We have traditions and concepts. And I just had to realize that I have to keep the focus on myself. And the only way that I can help my family and my friends is to keep the focus on myself, understand why I feel these feelings, understand that this is a disease and that my brother's not doing this to hurt me, that he's not doing this to try to be difficult, that the only way I can help him is to really understand the disease myself and to adjust how I react, how I can control my emotions, and be a support. And also, the biggest thing that was very difficult in the beginning was to learn compassion. which is really difficult when the person on the other end isn't in recovery and is constantly, you know, battling these demons and picking up the rope, as they say, and trying to bait me. And in the beginning, before I was in any recovery, I was constantly picking that up that rope, and we were playing this tug of war, and always feeling like I had to get my point across that you've got to do this or you've got to do that, and this is how it should be done, and your life is unmanageable. Like, don't you want to do this A, B, C, D? And it was just finally I realized I can't do that. It must feel so frustrating to be my brother and to hear me say all this because he's sick and he he's struggling, and the last thing you need is somebody telling you what to do. So it's an ongoing battle. There are good days and bad days, but I do have to say, even though my brother is not in recovery and yet, maybe he will one day, and there's still hope. I haven't given up, but our relationship is improving at very small steps, but it's improving, and I'm allowing him to be the adult that he is, and I'm understanding that he has his own higher power, just like I have my own higher power, and I have to trust, live and let live, and take it one day at a time, and really understand what my motives are when I react or try to have him do something. If I want him to get sober, what's my motive behind that? Most of the time it's been because it will make me feel better because I don't have to worry about him, right? That's like a selfish motive. Instead, the motive has to come from him, that he wants to feel healthy, that he wants to attain a better life because he wants to. It has to be his choice. And it's really hard when you see a loved one struggling. His life has unraveled and he doesn't have a job. He's living at home with my mom. And the problem is that he and my mom now are living this tumultuous lifestyle where they love each other, but they also fight. And it has become a really toxic environment. And both of them create chaos. One creates chaos, then the other gets frustrated and goes off and hits the booze because it's such a difficult environment to live in. And then the other one does that. And then the other one thinks, well, if they're doing it, I'm going to do it. And it's this horrible cycle. So it's been really difficult to witness and just watch. And there are times when things are okay and it's kind of the dust settles, and then it's a roller coaster. It's up and down and up and down. But I am so, so grateful that this program exists. And I've been learning about Lois and Bill, and I think their history is really interesting. And hearing the struggles that Lois went through, it just, and being part of the Al-Anon group and joining the meetings. I've been joining, like I said, for 13 months. I've also been doing service now for the past 3 months. I've even been hosting meetings, and I finally went to my first in-person meeting last week, which was really great. And like I said, this program is it saved me. It saved me, and I hope it will help save my family. But it saved me have better relationship with my own husband. It's helped me have a better relationship with everything around me, with my animals in my house, with myself and my career, and with everybody that I interact with, because I have a bit more compassion just in general with humankind. And so I thought it would be really interesting to join an AA meeting again now when I've been in a program myself, and to see and to hear stories and just to really learn, because gaining compassion takes a lot of practice, and having compassion for the right reasons. Because you can say you have compassion, but if you don't have it deep down, you're just lying to yourself. And so I'm trying to learn also how I can be a better supporter for my family. And it's one day at a time, you know. Um, Unfortunately, there's always things that are happening, and my family this past week has been really challenging. There have been a few crises happening, and had I not been in this program, the crisis that I was dealt with on Friday would have destroyed me. You know, I felt my old self coming out and wanting to panic and ring the alarms and go into boss mode, and I was able to recognize those emotions and feelings and then bring myself down to a place of serenity and handle the crisis in what I thought was a very calm way, and understand that both of the people in my family that this is happening to, including myself, we're all doing the best that we can, and that I really have to try to approach this with a more compassionate frame of mind, because I love my family, you know, regardless of all of the drama and the anger and the hateful words that get flung between everybody. I still love my family, and I'll do anything I can. But what that means is staying in my lane, cleaning my side of the street. And it's really hard, you know, it's really difficult. Um, so yeah, I don't know if you have any questions or if there's anything you want me to specifically mention. I'm happy to.
Alex, thank you very much. And it's you can see when people practice the principles and
Hmm.
and have made this a way of life for them. Yesterday at the AA meeting, you could have easily left, got mad and
Hmm.
when we asked that we share that
Yes.
this is an AA meeting. So again, it showed how you practice, put this into practical application.
Yeah,
You
I would probably have left before, and to be honest, I was nervous to join because I know this is it's personal, right? And I thought, okay, nobody was sharing, so I would share. And I was really, it's almost like I felt like, you know, heat rushed to my face, and I felt really uncomfortable. And I said, you can't share, and I didn't know. And then immediately the first thought was, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here. But I said, no, 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 you know, listen, stay. This is these are the rules within this room, and that's okay. So you haven't done anything wrong, and stay. And I'm so glad that I did, but I wouldn't have probably done that prior to being in the program.
and that's what in Alcoholics Anonymous, when I talk to sponsees or when I talk to people in general, that's what I tell them is Alcoholics Anonymous is about growing up, becoming
Hmm.
emotionally mature. You know,
Hmm.
they say that we stop maturing emotionally uh, the, when we start drinking. So if you start
Hmm.
drinking at 12, then your emotional level is at 12 years old, 15, 16. So, yeah, it's about growing up, growing up. I'm 62 years old. I've been sober 40 plus years, but
Wow, congratulations.
thank you. And I can get immature in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. I still have to put in the work, just as much work as somebody with 40 days. And yeah,
Isn't that wild?
uh,
I
you know,
can feel the same. It's like those emotions can just, I can have a fiery temper as well. I can be even killed and healed until, finally I snap. And it's now I can feel those emotions and I can see it happening. And I almost have an out of body experience looking at myself and think, wow, girl, this is crazy how you're about to explode. And now I can kind of recognize it because those feelings, like you said, they're not going to go away ever, right? That's human emotion. It's about recognizing it and then being able to calm yourself down and be like, no, I want to hold on to my serenity. I'm not going to let somebody else's response dictate how I'm going to respond. And that to me was like, it sounds so simple when you read it, but when you start really reading the words about what that says and listening and then practicing, you realize how life-changing those simple techniques are. And you don't understand, I feel like you don't understand until you're in a program. You know, you really have to experience and start working on it. Hold on, I'm just got another call. Are you there?
Yes.
Sorry, my other phone was ringing. You really got to start practicing it, and that's when you start to see how it can positively affect you.
No, and that's,
So,
I still have every single defect of character that I came in with 40 years ago. I still have
mhm,
every single one of them. But I would not have 40 years if I didn't change. If I had not changed,
right.
then I would not have 40 years. I have changed, and my character defects don't manifest themselves that easily anymore. Uh, and just as you said, I'm able to, first of all, before getting sober, I didn't know how to identify my feelings, let alone cope with them. But now I identify my feelings, and then I can deal with them, work on them, coping skills. One thing I say
Yeah.
is that I, one thing I say is that I was not rehabilitated. I was habilitated because I got sober a month before my 22nd birthday. I had nothing to fall back on. Everything I learned was through this program, is through this program. And it is a great way of life. And, you know,
Mhm.
in Al-Anon, I believe we use the same book, the big book. You use the big book as well?
No, we don't. We
Oh,
don't
you
use
don't?
a big book.
Oh, no?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, Lois, who is Bill, the founder, wrote the big book, but Lois wrote her own book, and we have different books, which I didn't
Okay.
realize. Yeah.
I didn't know
So
that either.
we have a lot of different daily readers. One of them is Courage to Change. One is called Hope for Today and One Day at a Time. So there's a lot of different readers. Yeah. So we're I guess you could say AA is like the brother to this, and the sister is Al-Anon, and we're similar in that we've adapted the 12 steps, but really everything else is different and slightly adjusted for and the only rule to joining Al-Anon is that you have to be a family or friend of an alcoholic. So there are a lot of people who join Al-Anon from AA because they join AA and then they realize, you know, their whole family is an alcoholic as well, or their friends. And that once they've been able to understand a little bit from the AA program, they still realize that there's a lot of healing to do. And the Al-Anon program offers a different perspective. And then they start to realize that, you know, in order for their existing recovery to improve, they also need to kind of dive into the Al-Anon aspect because that opens their eyes to maybe their past experiences, which helps them to understand themselves a little bit better as well. But
No,
it's, you know, it's helpful when you have a support group around you when, you know, and that's why I think Al-Anon was so important for me because I wanted my family to realize that I'm working just as hard and I'm not pointing the fingers being like, this is your problem, you fix it, you know. I just deep down I thought that didn't feel right. And I don't, you know, I can see how my own isms in life were brought about me growing up alongside alcoholism, and then how that transforms into the rest of my life. So yeah, we don't have the big book, we've got our own, which I think is great because there's more to learn, you know.
no, it doesn't really matter. I mean, some programs, but you're right. AA started everything. Then I believe Al-Anon may have been the second one, and then NA, CA, Smokers Anonymous.
Yes.
Yeah. Some use the same book, and others use, a variation of the big book. Uh,
And we use the serenity prayer at the beginning of our meetings.
yeah.
And then we have a declaration that we say at the end. And it's interesting, our meeting layouts are pretty similar to yours, except that at the end, we don't do chipmunk, we do fellowship, which is just an open forum. And there aren't any chips in our program, but otherwise it's pretty similar.
And
And I
just like
would
you said,
really recommend, anyone in AA who has family or friends also struggling with alcoholism, I think it's important to join a couple Al-Anon meetings. And when you go on, there is a separate Al-Anon app. And then, it also shows if it's open or what kind of meeting it is. So um, everyone is welcome to join. The only caveat is that you must have a family or friend that is struggling with alcoholism. So there are a lot of double winners in the program, as they call them.
right, they do call them double winners. And just like you said, just like some people join Al-Anon after joining AA, many people join AA because they bring a family member or a spouse or whoever uh, to AA. What was I saying? Yeah, they say they joined in through the back door. They bring a
Mm,
they bring a friend who has a problem. So I'm bringing my friend to an AA meeting. He has a problem, but then they find out they have a problem also.
right,
They,
right.
so yeah,
Yeah.
this thing is a great
It,
way of life. I didn't get life's little instruction book when I was born, and now I found an instruction book.
right. And it's funny because I also find, and I don't know if you find this, sometimes I feel like I want to share the program and inform people, but there's a lot of people out there who get uncomfortable when you start talking about it. They're like, "Oh, yeah, but I'm not an alcoholic." And it's like when I said earlier that I feel like everyone should learn about this because it really helps in all your affairs. It's it really takes somebody who's listened and tried the program to understand that. But if somebody's fresh, never been in any sort of recovery, they are their minds aren't ready for it because they just think it's not for them, and it's a hugely religious thing, and they have all of these preconceived ideas, right? So I also find I have to be pretty cautious when I talk about it, or I don't talk about it too much until I can figure out if that person really wants to hear. Often everybody always asks, "How are you?" And you just answer, "Fine." And then, unless it's close friends who start really asking how you are and you start talking about things, that's when I sort of broach or explain a little bit in more detail what I'm working on. And then you sort of test the waters. Are they really interested? Are they, and then you maybe mention it, and some people are really fascinated, and some people kind of aren't ready to hear about it. So I feel like I don't want to push it down anyone's throats, right? Everybody's kind of got to want to learn about it. And but I have introduced the program to quite a few people who at first they listen to me and they're like, okay, but then they start reading. And I even just was able to convince my aunt who lives in Europe to join Al-Anon. And she had no idea about Al-Anon. She had no idea that it's a global platform. Each country, I was looking online, there's even an Al-Anon in the United Emirates. Like all over the world has these programs. All over the world has translated this literature. So it is available. And now with the app, like as messed up as COVID was, how awesome is it that we now have these apps that bring hundreds of meetings into our bedrooms if we want. You can take a meeting from your bed. You can take a meeting while you're out walking your dog. I remember in the beginning, I was driving and I was so distraught that I just pulled over and immediately jumped on a meeting. It was in the middle of a meeting. But that flexibility is so awesome. And it gives everyone who's maybe like nervous and doesn't know if they want to join. I'm sure even for AA, like if you're not sure, like just jump in a meeting and jump out. Test the waters. There's no commitment. You don't have to be on camera. You don't have to give any information. The anonymity is amazing. So I love that the app is now so easily available. I think it's one of the best things to come out in the past few years.
Adaptability. Why not take advantage of this technology? And it's almost
Totally.
and the fourth edition of the Big Book came out in maybe 2000 or 2001, and there it talked about modem to modem. Now here it is. But absolutely, I'm not anonymous. I wear a medallion. And many people ask me, "Oh, what is this symbol? Is it the Mason symbol?" And I say, "No, it's
Mm.
Alcoholics Anonymous." Yeah. Uh, all right, Miss Alex, really appreciate you coming today.
Of course, I was so happy when you asked me, and thank you so much for being so kind when I joined your meeting yesterday. I didn't want to make anyone uncomfortable, but I also just wanted to share because if there's one thing I've realized how many people don't know what's out there, right? You don't know until you know. And I just wanted also to let people know that they're welcome to join our meetings if they also have family or friends struggling. It helps, we all need help. And that's the thing. It's not, you don't have to be ashamed to be in any of these programs, right? Life is hard.
It takes a
Life
lot of
is,
courage. It takes a lot of courage
yes,
to admit you have a problem and to
yep,
ask for help, and then it takes courage to even accept the help.
yep, that is for sure. Yeah.
All right,
No,
Alex,
thank you so much for having me.
you're
And I look forward to rejoining your meeting. I'll be back.
and just introduce yourself. No, no problem. And come early and stay after.
Yeah, I will. I will. Those are the best times I can chat with the group.
All right, fantastic. Thank
Thank you so much, John. Have a great, beautiful day.
you.